Great. Thank you, Christian. And hello, everybody out there. And it's nice to have you here on this virtual tasting. What I'm going to do today is hopefully have a little fun and you can play guess what wine I'm tasting. I do have a couple of wines here. I have a white and a red, and I'm going to taste these wines using the WSET Level 3 approach. Now, if you have never taken WSET classes, don't fear. You'll be able to taste with me and you'll be able to hear what I have to say about the wines. But I am going to be using what they call the systematic approach. Huh? Can't hear me? Okay. All right. So I'll be using the systematic approach. And even if you're not familiar with that, I will be able to give you some tasting notes and maybe you can discern what the wines are. So that's the approach. We're going to have a little fun with that. And I do have a tasty Otis. I've got a little friend of mine here who is going to help me. He is, his name's Otis, and he's a really good taster. Otis is 3 years old, and in dog years. So in human years, it's 21. So he's legally allowed to taste. Now, it's not good for dogs to taste wine, and he doesn't really seem to like it very much, but he loves treats. And I have a treat right here for Otis. So, oh, yeah. Good boy. All right. Well, I'm going to let him get back to playing with his bone over here. But in the meantime, why don't we go ahead and get started on our tasting? So again, I'm going to taste this white wine. And as I look at the wine, I use a white background, which I have here. So holding it over the white background, the appearance, the color seems to be what I would call lemon, or you might call it yellow. And it has about a medium intensity, meaning the color goes a little bit past halfway. If I hold the glass at a 45-degree angle, it goes a little bit more than halfway past the center of the color. Next, I'm going to just hold the glass, not swirl it, but just put it up to my nose. And I get it here, and I can't really smell it. So it's not pronounced, or it's not even medium plus intensity. But if I get it right on top of the glass, I could smell it. I would classify that as a medium intense aroma. And next thing we do is we begin to describe what those aromas are. And using the WSET approach, they classify 3 different types of aromas. You have what they call primary, which are the essence of the grape itself. For example, the Sauvignon Blanc is going to have that grassy character, maybe some grapefruit, melon, things like that. Chardonnay will have apples and pears and maybe some butter and toasty oak components. So those are called primary characteristics. Actually, the toastiness is what we call a secondary. And secondary is what comes through the winemaking process. And again, if it was a Chardonnay, buttery character from malolactic fermentation, oak could have vanilla, toast, and those kinds of aroma. And then thirdly, we have what are known as the tertiary aromas. Some of you may have heard the term bouquet before. Bouquet are those aromas that come from the bottle age. And those are those complex aromas that develop over time. And with certain wines, you tend to get a little bit of a dried fruit character, maybe mushroomy. You might get some nutty character like almond and hazelnut. So we have primary from the grape, secondary from winemaking, and tertiary from bottle age. All right. So first of all, if I smell this wine, Otis, you don't have to smell this. I'll give you another treat. Here you go. So if you smell this wine, first thing I get, thinking of the primary, I get some honeysuckle. So there's a little bit of a floral note. And then the next thing I get is a little bit of apple, maybe some pear, some citrus notes like lemon. And there's a hint of peach, not a really ripe peach, but more like a peach skin, maybe white peach skin. I'm not getting any tropical fruits. I don't pick up any overt herbaceousness in this wine. There is a little bit of what I would classify as minerality, maybe some wet stone, and even a little bit of a wet wool. Okay, so those are my primary aromas. Secondary, I pick up a little bit of, I do get a little bit of a toasty character. And even some, a little bit of a bread dough. Like when bread is rising in the oven. Otis, you want to come up here with me? Come here. You get some of that. Now, that could be lees contact. Typically, those bread doughy or biscuity characters are classified as lees character, but the toastiness can be from oak or from lees. I'm looking to see if I get any butter. I'm not really picking up a lot. There may be some there. Maybe just this power of suggestion is making me think that, but I'm not really sure. And Otis is here. Otis, you want to try it? Come here. Here we go. Okay. Actually, now I'm getting a lot of dog hair. So, all right. And then tertiary notes, I do get a little bit of a dried fruit. Maybe slight dried apple, a little bit of almond, and maybe some white mushroom as well. Okay. So those are my aromas. Now let's taste it. Mm-hmm. Dry, and I think the acid, which makes you salivate, I always wait about 10 seconds because that amount of time is what it takes, at least for me personally, for the saliva to begin to form. And through that, I can sort of calibrate what the acid is. Otis, do you want another treat? I think he does. So acid, I'm salivating quite a bit. It's not like a fire hose, but it's certainly more than a faucet. So I'm kind of between a medium plus and maybe even high. So pretty good acid. Alcohol, not too strong. I don't get any burning in the back of my palate, so that would be medium. Body, I sort of use the metaphor of milk, and milk would be, light milk or non-fat milk would be light. Heavy, full body, full homogenized or half and half would be full. And for me, I'm sort of about a medium, so maybe like a 2% milk. Flavor intensity is, again, medium on the palate. And then any additional flavors here. I'm getting, again, that really pretty extensive almondy, apple, some stony character. Really, really extensive on the finish. So I'm still tasting it. For me, this finish has been lasting for more than 30 seconds, so I would give that a long finish. Now, let me just reiterate what I've said. So I've given this a dry, medium plus or high acid, medium alcohol, medium body, medium intensity, long finish. The flavors are things like honeysuckle, apple, pear, white peach, a little bit of minerality, whetstone, maybe some white mushroom and almond, and really long finish. So with that, and I also think, when you do your quality assessment for WSET, when you do that, you have, oh, you're a good boy. Yes, you are. You do three things or four things. You think about the balance, the length, intensity, and the complexity. And for me, this has great balance. Nothing sticks out like a sore thumb. It's all well integrated. It has really good length. We gave this a long finish. Incredibly complex, a lot of nuances, and not just a one-dimensional wine. Maybe doesn't have quite the intensity, so it has 3 out of the 4 quality markers. With that, I would give it a very good overall quality. I also think this wine could age. Certainly more than 3 years. I think a wine will develop more bottle age. It's got good acidity to allow it to last quite a long time. So we're going to put up a couple of options for you to decide for yourselves what you think this wine is. So Christian, have you put those up? Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So the selections are, I can't see the screen, but I think what I gave you was a Chablis Premier Cru, Albarino from Spain, a Vouvray, which is from Loire Valley, made from Chenin Blanc, and a Riesling from Alsace. So again, Chablis, Albarino, Vouvray, and Riesling from Alsace. So, yeah. What do you think it is, Otis? Are you confused? Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I did mention that. I did mention that wet wool thing. Yeah. Oh, I got a note that they can't hear you, Christian. Yeah. Okay. Most people say Vouvray. Okay, good. Well, mm, who said that? Mm, yeah, good choice. And I think Vouvray is also a pretty good option too for these two wines for this one. Well, should we tell them what it is? Otis, are you ready to reveal? Okay, here we go, buddy. It's a Chablis. It's from Domaine La Roche, Chablis Premier Cru, Les Veillons. That's Premier Cru Vineyard. And it also says Vieilles Vignes on the label, which means old vine. So this is a really beautiful Chablis. Now, I can see why many people went the Vouvray. I did say a little bit of that wet wool, but I think a Vouvray would probably have a little bit more of a bruised apple character. The acid would probably be much higher. Certainly would be high, not medium plus to high, but high. And possibly a little bit of residual sugar as well, which is typical in Vouvray that sort of help balance that high acid. But again, and Chablis has that really taut, stony character. Do you smell the stony character? Kind of a kind of a wet, stony character, and you can get that in Vouvray as well. But anyway, that it's easier when you're tasting the wine and not hearing all the notes to be able to decipher what it is. But for those of you who are at least trying, thank you for playing the game. All right, now we're going to move on to the red wine. Ready to try this, Otis? Okay. So this is my red wine, and I'm looking at this again with holding the glass over white background at about a 45-degree angle. And it looks to be about medium intensity. I could just barely see through it, and it's ruby color. Otis wants a break, so I'm going to put him down. It's got a ruby color. And then as I put it up to my nose right about here, I can smell it. So I can't really discern what I'm smelling at this point, but I do get a little bit of black fruit, maybe some red fruit, but I'm not able to define it. So I wouldn't call this pronounced, but I would say it's medium plus on the intensity. Giving this a little swirl, I do get a little bit of a red floral, like maybe a little bit of a rose petal, and lots of red fruit. So some strawberry, red currant, red cherry, red plum. There's a little bit of black fruit here as well. Some black currant, black cherry, also some black plum. There's a little bit of a ripeness to this wine, but not overly so. Maybe some slight dried fruit like fig, and a little bit of a black currant leaf. Sort of some not herbaceous overtly, but maybe a little eucalyptus, maybe a little bit of mint as well. And what I would call anise or black licorice too. There's some of that coming through in the glass. So those are all my primary notes. Secondary, I do get some oak. So I get some vanilla, a little bit of toast, a little cedar, and dare I say chocolate. I did have a mocha this morning. I'm getting chocolate and coffee at the same time. All right, and then finally, a little bit of dried fruit. So I mentioned the cherry, the currants, the plum. I'm getting some of those same fruits, but in a slightly dried form. I already did mention the fig. And there's a little bit of leather. I'm not sure if it's Prada or Gucci. I know leather because my wife really likes purses. She buys all her purses on the street in New York, by the way. Just kidding. I get some dark mushroom and also some earthy character too. Okay, and Otis is wanting a treat. So let me give this a taste. And Otis is back with a treat. Okay, good boy. Oh, wow. This is really nice. Dry. Acid's about medium, maybe medium plus. Tannins, not that strong, but kind of medium or medium minus on the tannins. They're very velvety, very well integrated. Alcohol, I do get more alcohol than I did on the Chablis, but it's kind of, now when we use a WSET approach, medium would be between 11 and 14, or 13.9, and then 14 and above would be high. I'm going to go hot. I just think it's a little bit warm on the back of my throat. So, and that goes along with that sort of riper fruit character that I got as well. Body seems to be about medium plus, a little bit more body than I found in the Chablis. Intensity is still medium plus, as I found on the nose. And then the finish, pretty good. Not as long as the Chablis, but I would give that a medium plus finish. So looking at this wine again, on the palate, dry, medium or medium plus acid, medium or medium minus tannin, medium plus body, medium plus intensity, medium plus finish, aromas of red fruit, cherry, plum, a little currant, some also a little bit of black fruit, a little of oak influence, toast, cedar, vanilla, a little bit of chocolate and coffee, and then some dried fruit and leather and a little bit of earthiness. So given that we have really good balance, again, complex and has good intensity, medium plus is a marked intensity, but it doesn't have quite the finish. So again, 3 out of the 4 markers for quality, I'd give this a very good overall quality. I also think it's going to age well. I think this wine will hold up in the bottle, given that it's got some really nice fruit that's still developing, and it has some really good acid to keep it going along. The tannins are not too formidable, but I think there's enough tannin to give this wine some staying power. Okay, so Christian, would you like to put up the options of what this can be?
Yep. Okay. So no one, I think I'm having audio issues on my end, so you'll have to be the communicator on this. So okay, I have up there Merlot, Pommard, Rioja, and Zinfandel.
Okay, so Christian is putting up there a Merlot from the Columbia Valley of Washington, Pommard Premier Cru from Burgundy, a Pinot Noir, a Rioja Grand Reserva, or a Zinfandel from Dry Creek in Sonoma. So let's see, what are our assumptions on this one?
Okay, we have a Merlot, Columbia Valley.
They're hearing you now, Chris.
Oh, great, great.
Yeah, that's good.
Good. So Merlot, Columbia Valley so far. Let's see what are some other guesses. We got a Merlot, a Zinfandel, another Merlot. We have Karen Wetzel with a Rioja Grand Reserva.
Otis almost
we have another Rioja. So Merlot, Rioja, Zinfandel so far. Another Merlot. So it looks like overwhelmingly we have folks picking Merlot. We have Kim is guessing a Pommard. So okay,
good.
So I think it's time for the big reveal.
The big reveal. It is a Rioja Marqués de Cáceres Grand Reserva 2011. Now, all these options are very closely aligned in the way they can taste. For those of you who thought Washington and Merlot, my assumption would be it might be a little bit riper, more alcohol. In fact, let me see what the alcohol is. This is, it says 14% on the label. But Merlot can ripen really easily at high sugars, consequently higher alcohol. And in Washington, they're usually 14.5, 15. And I think we would have gotten more black fruit, more body as well. Pommard could be a good one too, but I think we would have had a little bit more acidity, maybe more dominated by red fruit. And then Zinfandel, another logical selection as well, but that would have had much higher alcohol and probably a little bit more of a dried fruit because those Zinfandel grapes can often raisin very easily on the vine and kind of give you that dried fruit character and also pretty good acidity at the same time. And this wine, it could have fallen into that play as well. Now, the one thing that I think was confusing with this wine is that the traditional Riojas, especially a Grand Reserva that are aged for a long time, they traditionally age them in American oak. And that can be noted by really high levels of vanilla and sometimes that dill weed or coconut. And I didn't get a lot of that because this wine is actually aged in some French oak. Not a high percentage of new French oak, but there is some French oak here. And that is a little bit more the way that Rioja is going nowadays. They're using more French oak. Some people are using a combination of French and American. So it's not as easy to identify Rioja in the traditional sense as it used to be. But I think this wine is a beautiful example with an older character coming through with that dried fruit. And again, great wine to drink now or put down for another 5 to 10 years. So there we go.
Great.
Oops. What do you think? Oh, Otis he's right here. Otis, you want to say goodbye to everybody? Come here.
Well, thank you so much, Peter. That was a lot of fun. I hope everyone enjoyed this blind tasting exercise, and looking forward to hosting some more Facebook Lives coming up. We have some planned for Mondays, Wednesdays, and Saturdays, so stay tuned to the Facebook page for announcements on those. Really appreciate you tuning in. Hope everyone stays safe, has an amazing Saturday, and look forward to seeing you all again soon. Thanks so much.
Yeah, Otis is playing. He doesn't want to say goodbye, but I'll say goodbye for him. Thanks for joining, everybody.
Thanks, Peter.
Have a great day.
Cheers.
Oh, there he is. Cheers.
Cheers.